The 1920s. New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, one of the most influential and wealthy in the world, triumphantly announces a sensational purchase. They had found a lost masterpiece of ancient Greek art, a statue of Athena from the 6th century BC. The price? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, an astronomical sum for the time. Following them, Renaissance masterpieces attributed to Donatello and Giovanni Pisano began appearing in Boston, Cleveland, and in the collections of America's wealthiest people. The art world was ecstatic. But this was not a discovery. This was a hack. A calculated operation to bypass all systems of expertise, trust, and money flow. And the main hacker in this system was not a criminal genius, but a simple Italian stonemason with incredible talent. This is the story of that scam, broken down step by step, from idea to loud failure. Let's begin.
To hack a system, you need to find its weak spot. The art market system of the 1920s had one huge vulnerability. On one side, the insatiable demand of American millionaires and museums for European antiquities. They craved the status that only masterpieces with the history could provide. On the other side, supply. Where could they get these masterpieces? You can't just print them. There weren't enough genuine works to go around. A hole appeared. The market was ready to pay insane prices for rarities, which meant it was ready to believe in their existence, even if it required looking the other way. All that was left was to find someone who could plug that hole. Someone who could create a product that would pass the most rigorous system of all, the system of art expert evaluation.
For a great discovery, or a great illusion to occur, you need someone who can create it. Not a theorist, but a practitioner. A virtuoso whose skill borders on magic. That man was Alceo Dossena. He was not a product of academies. His universities were the workshops of stonemasons and restorers in his native Cremona. While art historians studied art from books, Dossena studied it with his fingertips. He spent hours examining the curves of marble in old churches, absorbing every stroke, every decision of the Renaissance and antique masters. His genius was not in copying, but in a deep, almost mystical understanding. He didn't reproduce works by Donatello, he thought like Donatello. He felt how a 5th century BC sculptor would see a future statue in a block of marble. He was not an imitator, but a reincarnation.
But talent alone wasn't enough. A flawless, almost scientific illusion was needed. And here, Dossena proved himself a genius engineer of time. He didn't age his works. He made time work for him. He sourced old marble from demolished buildings. He assembled sculptures from genuine antique fragments to give them a plausible history. He developed unique compounds to create that patina, the trace of centuries experts looked for with their eyes and fingers on the stone surface in just a few weeks. He sold his creations as stylizations, honestly stating their origin. He created an illusion, not a fraud. He was an honest magician. But for every illusion, there is someone behind the curtains ready to turn magic into fraud. And soon, such people appeared.
The illusion was ready. But magic doesn't work without a slick magician who distracts the audience and directs their gaze. For Dossena, these puppeteers were Roman antiquity dealers, the Fasci brothers and Alfredo Fioravanti. They saw in the modest craftsman from Cremona not an artist, but a gold mine. They weren't interested in art. They were interested in its price. They offered Dossena a deal. He creates in his workshop, and they find appreciators.
Their work was subtler than Dossena's. He created masterpieces, they created legends. They invented a captivating story for each statue. It was found during excavations of an old chapel, discovered on an abandoned noble villa, accidentally stumbled upon in a monastery basement. They masterfully played on the ambitions and gullibility of the New World elites, American millionaires, and museums. They wanted not just art, but a ready-made history confirming their status, and the dealers sold them this history in a marble frame.
The system worked flawlessly. Dossena Sculptures, passed off as works by antique and Renaissance geniuses, began a triumphal procession into the world's best collections. The Metropolitan Museum in New York, the museum in Boston, the private collection of Helen Clay Frick. Experts, blinded by the brilliance of the discovery and the seller's authority, didn't verify but confirmed authenticity. They saw what they wanted to see. The scam gained momentum like a flywheel. But in any theater, especially a shadow theater, the lights eventually come on. And that light was switched on for the most mundane reason: a quarrel over money.
Any perfect system collapses not from an external threat, but from internal decay. Trust between swindlers is the most fragile material, and it cracked. One of the dealers, Alfredo Fioravanti, felt his share was unfair, that his partners, the Foschi brothers, were pocketing the lion's share of their joint ventures. Envy, greed, and resentment, a classic mix that blows up any venture from the inside, no matter how successful. And Fioravanti takes a desperate step. Following the principle of, if I can't have it, nobody will, he goes to the very people who had welcomed his discoveries with delight, the journalists and experts.
The news spreads like wildfire. Leading world newspapers run sensational headlines. The scandal of the century, museums duped, genius forger. The art world, which just yesterday was praising these masterpieces, is now in hysterics. The experts who had authenticated the works look like complete profanes. The most innocent person in this whole story, Alceo Dossena himself, finds himself at the center of the storm. This comes as a shock to him. He thought he was honestly selling his stylizations. He didn't know about the enormous sums or that his works were being passed off as antique rarities. And now he faces the most difficult task, to prove that the greatest fraudster is actually a genius creator. And he decided to do it in the most spectacular way possible.
When the world accused him of the greatest deception, Dossena could have made excuses. He could have hidden. But he acted like a true master. He invited his accusers, journalists, skeptics, art historians, into his workshop, and he proposed an unprecedented experiment. Before their eyes, he took a rough, unremarkable piece of old marble and began to work. There were no secret tools, no magic elixirs, only his hands, his eye, and his genius skill.
In a matter of days, a new ancient sculpture was born before their eyes. He didn't hide a single technique. He showed how the patina was created, how the traces of time were applied. This was not just a master class. It was an act of pure creativity exposing itself. For those gathered, it was a moment of revelation. They realized they were dealing not with a fraudster, but with a virtuoso whose skill was so perfect it could bring the past to life. He was not a criminal. He was a victim of others' greed and a hostage of his own genius. The court, having studied all the circumstances, found Dossena not guilty. He did not receive fabulous fees and did not hide his authorship, but his name was already forever etched in history as the greatest forger. The system had acquitted him, but the verdict of public opinion had already been passed.
After the scandal, Dossena briefly knew fame, but the public's interest in the genius trickster quickly faded. He died in 1937 in obscurity and relative poverty, forever remaining in history a hostage to the label others had stuck on him. But his legacy proved to be far more complex and lasting than it might have seemed. The Docenna scandal forced the art world to forever abandon the old system where the opinion of an authority was the main argument. The eye and intuition were replaced by X-rays, microscopes, spectral and chemical analysis. Now, trust could only be placed in relentless scientific data. Docenna, without wanting to, made the system more professional and strict.
Today, the works of Alceu Docenna are no longer hidden in storage rooms. They are exhibited in the very same museums that were once his victims. But now, his name is proudly displayed on the placard. His fakes have become valuable museum exhibits in their own right, as testaments to unique skill and a monument to one of the most audacious chapters in art history. His creations, which he sold for hundreds of lire, now themselves sell at auctions for hundreds of thousands of dollars and euros. The irony of fate caught up with him posthumously.
The story of Alceu Docenna is not a story of deception. It is a story of how blind faith in authority and a thirst for profit can blind people and exploit the purest talent. It is a story about how the line between a brilliant fake and brilliant art is sometimes just a matter of a signature and the honesty of those who stand between the artist and the viewer. He made us doubt, he made us see, and in that lies his ultimate victory. What do you think? Where is the line between virtuoso stylization and deception? Share your opinion in the comments.